I want to give a huge shout out to all my followers, all my supporters, anybody that has streamed Hot Topic, Hardaway, or Risky. I love you and thank you. Shout out to my team, Music the Label. Shout out to all my producers, my engineers, everybody that's been putting in work. We had 500,000 views on YouTube. 3 videos in, all 3 videos got 100K and up, and I'm finna drop again.
Just me, my thoughts, and these lyrics for the next 3 days. Sometimes you gotta disconnect to reconnect with your art. Hashtag Diamond Cut for coming soon. These were the final words Amara Diamond Johnson shared with her 8 million Instagram followers on Friday, April 12, 2022. The post showed her smiling in her state-of-the-art home studio, gold-tinted headphones around her neck, a notebook open beside her. The soft glow of expensive studio lighting cast her in an almost ethereal light, her signature diamond pendant gleaming against her skin. What her followers couldn't see was the shadow that had been stalking the edges of her life for months. They couldn't see the security reports stacked on her desk, the newly installed panic buttons throughout her glass mansion, or the growing fear behind her confident smile. In less than 72 hours, that smile would be forever extinguished, her final moments marked not by the beats that made her famous, but by 16 gunshots echoing through her empty home. Monday afternoon arrived with an unusual silence from Diamond's typically active social accounts. Kesha Williams, having texted her childhood friend repeatedly with no response, felt a chill that transcended mere concern. Using her emergency key, she entered the mansion's eerily quiet foyer, calling out Diamond's name into the emptiness. The subtle scent of copper in the air was her first warning that something was terribly wrong. What Kesha discovered in the master bedroom would haunt Atlanta's police force for years to come. Diamond's body, still bound to a chair, bore evidence of methodical torture spanning days. Blood-soaked lyrics from her own songs covered the walls in a macabre display of obsession turned deadly. Detective Marcus Rivera, first responding homicide investigator, would later tell reporters it was the most disturbing crime scene in my 15 years on the force. The mansion, designed to showcase Diamond's success, had transformed into a forensic nightmare. Crime scene technicians documented 16 separate gunshot wounds, one for each track on her debut album. Security cameras had been expertly disabled, leaving only fragments of footage showing a masked figure entering the property at 2:17 a.m. 3 days earlier. Most chilling was the discovery of a makeshift altar in a guest room, suggesting the killer had remained in the house with Diamond's body, performing some kind of ritual before fleeing the scene. Have you ever felt that inexplicable sensation of being watched? That gut feeling that something isn't right in your own home? Diamond dismissed these instincts, and it cost her everything. In today's episode, we'll examine not just how this tragedy unfolded, but the critical warning signs that were overlooked by those around her. Stay with me. What you learn today could literally save your life or the life of someone you love. The patterns we'll uncover in Diamond's story exist in countless dangerous situations. By recognizing them early, you might prevent a similar tragedy from touching your world. Like this video and drop a comment if you've ever experienced that unsettling feeling of being watched. Before she was Diamond, Amara Johnson was just another talented teenager from South Chicago's Forgotten Corners, writing rhymes in a notebook while her mother worked double shifts. At 16, her freestyle videos began circulating online, capturing attention with her razor-sharp wordplay and unflinching honesty about life in her neighborhood. By 19, she'd signed with Apex Records, a deal that lifted her family from poverty to possibility overnight. Her debut album, 16 Facets, dropped in 2017, its raw examination of black womanhood and ambition resonating far beyond hip-hop circles. Critics praised her poetic precision and unapologetic authenticity, while fans connected with the vulnerability beneath her confident flow. 3 platinum albums followed, each expanding her artistic range while maintaining the truth-telling that became her signature. Beyond music, Diamond built an empire. Her beauty line Diamond Cut became a staple in black households across America, celebrated for its inclusive shade range and empowering marketing. Fashion collaborations, a documentary about her rise, and philanthropic work in Chicago cemented her as more than just an artist. She was a movement. To her millions of followers, Diamond represented possibility, a young black woman who had transformed her pain into power, her struggles into strength. Her public persona radiated invincibility, making the vulnerability of her end all the more shocking. While Diamond's Instagram showcased glamorous photo shoots and VIP parties, her private text messages told a different story. "Sometimes I feel like I'm performing my life instead of living it," she wrote to Kesha just months before her death. As her star rose, her circle shrank. Former friends became employees, relationships became business arrangements, and genuine connections grew increasingly rare in her world of calculated appearances. Fame had created a paradox for Diamond. She was constantly surrounded yet profoundly alone. Her schedule, managed down to 15-minute increments, left little room for spontaneity or genuine connection. Security concerns meant she could no longer visit childhood haunts or walk freely through public spaces. Even family gatherings became complex productions requiring NDAs and security sweeps, stripping them of the warmth and ease she craved. Journal entries found after her death revealed a woman grappling with imposter syndrome despite her success. "They love a version of me that doesn't exist," she wrote in 2021. "The real me is messy and scared, and sometimes just wants to go back to being nobody." Her therapist would later tell investigators that Diamond struggled with panic attacks and insomnia, hidden from her millions of followers behind carefully curated content that projected nothing but confidence and control. The isolation that came with her success had created the perfect conditions for vulnerability. In early 2022, Diamond purchased what architectural magazines called a modernist masterpiece, nestled in the hills outside Atlanta. The $8 million property featured floor-to-ceiling windows throughout its 6,000 square feet, offering breathtaking views of the surrounding landscape while inadvertently creating a fishbowl effect for its occupant. At night, with lights aglow inside, the home became an illuminated stage visible from multiple vantage points beyond its perimeter. The mansion represented Diamond's arrival at the pinnacle of success, a concrete and glass testament to her journey, from public housing to private wealth. Yet its transparent design embodied the uncomfortable duality of her existence, constantly visible, yet desperately seeking privacy. "I wanted something beautiful," she told Architectural Digest, "but sometimes I feel like I'm living in a museum." The home's open concept layout and minimal interior walls created stunning sight lines, but few places to hide, a metaphor for fame itself that would prove tragically prophetic. The first incidents were subtle enough to dismiss. In February, Diamond noticed her favorite coffee mug had moved from where she'd left it. A week later, her studio chair seemed slightly adjusted. By March, she was finding small objects rearranged throughout the house. Nothing missing, just not quite right.
Police have arrested a 22-year-old man and charged him with the death of a Columbus rapper. Kyson Murphy is charged with murder and aggravated robbery. He's accused of shooting and killing Courtney Bruce, known by her stage name, Boog the Bandit. Bruce was killed during an attempted robbery back in May. Murphy is currently being held at the Franklin County Jail.
"Am I losing my mind?" she texted Kesha one night after finding her journal open to a different page than she remembered. A lingering scent, masculine cologne she couldn't identify, appeared occasionally in rooms she hadn't used that day. Security footage reviews showed nothing unusual, leading her head of security, James Mercer, to suggest it might be just the house settling, or stress playing tricks on your mind. When Diamond insisted something was wrong, Mercer reminded her of her grueling schedule and suggested therapy for fame-induced paranoia, a dismissal that would cost Diamond everything. By early April, the sensation of being watched had become Diamond's constant companion. She began taking photos of how she left rooms, setting up informal traps, like strategically placed hairs on door frames that would later be disturbed. During a particularly tense call with her management team, Diamond's insistence that someone had access to her private bathroom was met with uncomfortable silence, followed by suggestions she take time off. "Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you," she posted cryptically on Twitter, a message fans interpreted as lyrics but investigators would later recognize as a desperate cry for validation. Only Kesha took these concerns seriously, staying overnight several times when Diamond's anxiety peaked. "Something's not right in this house," Kesha told her boyfriend after one such stay. "I can feel it too." 3 days before the murder, Diamond fired Mercer after discovering unauthorized remote access to her security system. Too late to save her life. Long before Diamond signed record deals or Grace magazine covers, Kesha Williams had been her anchor. They'd met at 14 in a South Chicago Community Center's freestyle workshop, forming a bond that survived Diamond's meteoric rise. Unlike the entourage that eventually surrounded the star, Kesha had no financial stake in Diamond's career. She remained the friend who remembered Amara before the fame, the one person who saw past the carefully constructed image. When Diamond began describing the strange occurrences in her home, Kesha recognized something in her friend's voice that others missed. Genuine terror beneath the frustration. "I've known you 20 years, Kesha told her during a late-night call in March. "This isn't your anxiety talking. This is your intuition." While industry professionals and security experts dismissed Diamond's concerns as paranoia, Kesha began keeping a detailed log of incidents, noting patterns that everyone else ignored. Their shared history gave Kesha unique insight. She could distinguish between Diamond's normal performance anxieties and this new, visceral fear that something malevolent had entered her life. The breaking point came on April 7th, when Diamond discovered her home security system had been accessed remotely 6 times in the previous month. The logins came from an unrecognized device, yet used authorized credentials. When confronted, Security Chief James Mercer suggested it was likely routine system maintenance, before admitting he had shared access codes with junior team members, a direct violation of Diamond's explicit instructions. "You're fired. All of you. Get out," Diamond told Mercer and his 3-person team that same day. Text messages recovered from her phone show she immediately contacted Elysium Security, a boutique firm specializing in protecting high-profile women in entertainment. Within 24 hours, Elysium's team had descended on the glass mansion, implementing a security overhaul that would tragically prove insufficient. The new measures were comprehensive. Biometric access points replaced traditional locks. Motion sensors covered blind spots in the existing camera network. Signal jammers prevented remote hacking, and a direct panic button system connected to private response teams was installed throughout the property. Most significantly, all previous access credentials were purged from the system. What investigators would later discover, however, was that these digital protections couldn't address the most critical vulnerability. A physical key had already been copied months earlier, rendering even the most sophisticated electronic security useless against an intruder who could simply unlock the door. For the first time in weeks, Diamond slept through the night. "I finally feel safe in my own home again," she texted Kesha on April 10th. The constant presence of Elysium's team, with their military backgrounds and specialized training in stalker prevention, provided the reassurance she'd been desperately seeking. She began using her home studio again, returning to the creative process that had been interrupted by her growing fears. This newfound security coincided with mounting professional pressure. Diamond's label had invested millions in her upcoming summer tour, with 26 cities already sold out. Her 4th album remained unfinished, with producers calling daily for the final vocals. "Just need 3 days of total focus," she told her management team, scheduling a weekend of isolation to complete her creative work. The decision to dismiss her entire staff for those 72 hours came from a place of artistic necessity and a misplaced confidence in technology's ability to protect her from a threat that had already breached her inner sanctum. Have you ever dismissed your own instincts about someone's behavior, only to regret it later? Diamond recognized something was wrong, yet those around her minimized her concerns until it was too late. This pattern is devastatingly common in stalking cases. The warning signs are often visible long before violence erupts. I want you to pause right now and think about this. What subtle behaviors have made you uncomfortable that others told you to ignore? The slight rearrangement of personal items, unexplained presence in places you frequent, or that gut feeling that someone's watching you. These aren't paranoia. They're your survival instincts activating. Share your experiences in the comments below. Your story might help someone else recognize the red flags in their own situation. If Diamond's team had taken her concerns seriously from the beginning, she might still be alive today. Don't let anyone convince you that your safety concerns are overreactions. They could be the warning that saves your life. Marcus Green first entered Diamond's orbit during the production of her second album, Pressure Makes Diamonds, in 2019. As a sound engineer with Apex Studios, his technical brilliance had earned him a reputation for perfectionism that complemented Diamond's own exacting standards. Studio session logs show they worked together on 14 tracks over a 6-month period, with Green specifically requested for the final mixing sessions due to his exceptional ear for vocal layering. Colleagues described Green as quiet but brilliant, a 34-year-old industry veteran who kept to himself but delivered impeccable work. He wasn't the type to socialize after sessions, recalled producer Damon Wells. While everyone else was celebrating track completions, Marcus would be packing up equipment or making technical notes. This professional distance was interpreted as dedication rather than detachment, earning him respect rather than suspicion. What no one recognized were the subtle signs of Green's growing fixation. Security footage later revealed him lingering in studios after Diamond left, touching items she'd used, even smelling her headphones when alone. His workspace featured a single photo of Diamond, not unusual in a professional context, but later revealed to be part of a calculated normalization of his obsession. Most disturbing was Green's methodical integration into Diamond's professional ecosystem, volunteering for additional projects connected to her work and cultivating relationships with her regular team members. Green's personnel file painted the picture of an ideal employee: no complaints, perfect attendance, exceptional performance reviews. His background check had revealed no criminal history, no restraining orders, no red flags whatsoever. The man who would ultimately torture and murder one of music's brightest stars had effectively hidden his pathology behind a veil of professional competence, demonstrating how the most dangerous predators often operate within systems of trust rather than outside them. When police raided Marcus Green's apartment 3 days after Diamond's murder, they discovered a shrine that chilled even veteran investigators. The spare bedroom had been transformed into what Detective Rivera described as a temple to Diamond, but with disturbing undertones of possession and punishment. One wall featured hundreds of photos, some public from social media, others clearly taken without Diamond's knowledge through windows or from hidden vantage points. These were arranged chronologically, creating a visual timeline of her movements over the past 3 years. Most unsettling was Green's collection of artifacts, items Diamond had touched or discarded during recording sessions. A half-empty water bottle with faded lipstick marks, tissues containing traces of her DNA, a broken guitar string she'd snapped during a frustrated moment. Each item was meticulously labeled with dates and circumstances of acquisition, preserved in clear display cases like museum pieces. Investigators found 27 strands of her hair, collected from studio equipment, each mounted on black velvet with handwritten notes about her mood or appearance on the day they were secretly harvested. 16 leather-bound journals documented Green's escalating obsession. Early entries showed professional admiration. Her vocal control is extraordinary. 5 takes of perfection today. By 2020, this had morphed into proprietary delusion. She's wasting her gift on commercial garbage. Only I understand her true artistic potential. The final journal contained detailed surveillance notes, floor plans of her home, and security patrol schedules, evidence of months of methodical stalking. The most damning discovery was a small box containing 3 keys labeled Diamond Home, Studio, and Secondary Entrance. Studio records confirmed Green had been alone in the control room when Diamond stepped out, leaving her key ring momentarily unattended. Security footage showed him making a quick impression in modeling clay before returning the keys to their original position, a 30-second violation of trust that would ultimately cost Diamond her life. Most chilling were the final journal entries outlining what Green called the purification, a detailed plan to cleanse Diamond of her commercial success and return her to artistic authenticity through a ritualized process of psychological and physical torture. The plan, written with disturbing precision, matched exactly what had been done to Diamond in her final 72 hours. By mid-April, Diamond faced a perfect storm of professional deadlines. Her label needed 4 final tracks to complete her album before tour rehearsals began in May. "I just need space to create," she told her management team during their last meeting. The decision to clear her calendar from Friday through Sunday created what security experts would later call a vulnerability window, a predictable period of isolation that Green had been waiting for. Text messages between Diamond and Kesha reveal the latter's growing concern. "You sure you want to be alone right now?" Kesha wrote on Thursday night. "I could stay in the guest house. You wouldn't even know I'm there." Diamond's response: "I'll be fine. The new security system is solid. Plus, I need zero distractions to finish these tracks," would haunt Kesha for months afterward. When Kesha pushed further, suggesting she check in personally each day, Diamond gently but firmly established her boundaries. "I love you for worrying, but I literally need to disconnect from everyone. 3 days of creative isolation, then I'm all yours." The Elysium security team, having completed their system overhaul, agreed to Diamond's request for privacy with one condition: regular system checks would be conducted remotely. What no one realized was that these scheduled checks created predictable patterns that Green, having studied the property for months, could easily work around. By Friday morning, Diamond's entire staff had vacated the property, leaving her alone in a house that offered both spectacular views and spectacular vulnerability. The security footage recovered from Diamond's property tells a chilling story of premeditated precision. At 2:17 a.m. Saturday morning, external cameras captured a masked figure approaching the property from the densely wooded eastern perimeter, a blind spot in the motion sensor coverage. The figure, later confirmed to be Green, moved with the confidence of someone intimately familiar with the security protocols, avoiding trigger zones with practiced ease. Most disturbing was Green's methodical disabling of the exterior cameras, not through technological hacking, but by physically repositioning them using a telescoping pole, angling each lens away from entry points. The property's guest house, situated 50 yards from the main residence, provided Green with a staging area where he prepared for the final approach. Security logs show the alarm system registered a legitimate key entry at the service door at 2:41 a.m. No forced entry, no broken windows, just the quiet click of a copied key. Inside the house, Green moved with eerie familiarity through the darkened rooms. Diamond, having fallen asleep in her studio while working, never heard his approach. The last clear footage shows Green standing in the hallway outside her studio, removing something from his backpack, restraints and sedatives that investigators would later find traces of in Diamond's system. The cameras went dark at 3:07 a.m., manually disabled from a central security panel using access codes that should have been purged during the system reset, evidence that Green's planning extended far beyond mere observation. When Diamond regained consciousness, she found herself facing a figure wearing what police reports would later describe as a handcrafted mask of profound psychological significance. Green had created the mask using printed lyrics from Diamond's most vulnerable songs, confessional verses about her insecurities, fears, and private pain, arranged in a collage and sealed with a substance later confirmed to be his own blood mixed with clear resin. The mask featured only a mouth opening, through which Green spoke to Diamond, and what surviving audio recordings reveal was a distorted voice. "I am your true audience," he told her. "The only one who sees past the commercial facade to your authentic self." The mask served multiple purposes, concealing Green's identity while symbolically reflecting Diamond's words back at her, creating a twisted intimacy that was central to his delusional purification process. Forensic psychologists analyzing the case noted the mask represented Green's fundamental misunderstanding of artistic expression. He had confused Diamond's creative vulnerability with personal invitation, her artistic persona with her actual self. This deadly conflation of art and artist is a pattern repeatedly seen in stalking cases involving public figures. What follows contains disturbing details of psychological and physical torture. While we've omitted the most graphic elements out of respect for Diamond and her family, this segment explores the mindset of her killer and her remarkable courage in the face of unimaginable horror. Viewer discretion is strongly advised, especially for those sensitive to descriptions of captivity and abuse. Green's purification ritual followed a methodical 3-day structure detailed in his journals and partially captured in audio recordings found on his devices. Each day targeted what he perceived as a different aspect of Diamond's corruption by fame. Day 1 focused on what he called commercial cleansing, forcing Diamond to listen to her most popular tracks while he critiqued them as betrayals of her artistic potential, interspersed with physical punishments when she defended her work. The second day centered on identity restoration, where Green systematically attacked Diamond's public persona. He brought printouts of her magazine covers, social media posts, and brand partnerships, burning them before her while demanding she confess to being inauthentic. The psychological manipulation escalated as Green alternated between rage and tenderness, creating a disorienting environment designed to break her resistance. Most disturbing was Green's documentation of the process. He positioned recording devices around the room, creating what he described in his journal as the final album, her journey back to authenticity. These recordings reveal Green's delusional belief that he was saving rather than destroying Diamond. Future generations will understand this necessary intervention, he can be heard saying. Sometimes an artist must be broken to be truly free. Forensic psychologists identified Green's behavior as a severe manifestation of erotomania combined with savior delusion. He genuinely believed Diamond would eventually thank him for this purification. This psychological profile is particularly dangerous in stalking cases, as the perpetrator views their violence as an act of devotion rather than harm, making them resistant to recognizing the victim's genuine terror. Throughout the recordings, Green repeatedly tells Diamond, "This hurts me more than it hurts you," while inflicting increasingly severe trauma. Throughout her ordeal, Diamond displayed extraordinary psychological resilience that investigators would later describe as both heartbreaking and inspiring. Audio recordings reveal her initial strategy of attempting to connect with Green humanely, using techniques that suggested previous training in hostage situations. "I can see you're hurting too," she told him during the first day. "Let's talk about what you're really looking for here." As the torture escalated, Diamond shifted tactics, drawing on the same mental toughness that had carried her from Chicago's streets to international stardom. When Green demanded she renounce her commercial success, she refused despite increasing physical pain. "My music reaches people who need it," she insisted. "That's not selling out. That's exactly what art should do." This defiance clearly frustrated Green, whose journals revealed he had expected her to break much earlier in his planned process. By the third day, Diamond had identified weaknesses in Green's delusional framework and began exploiting them. Recognizing his obsession with her authentic voice, she offered to create new music that would satisfy his artistic standards if he would untie her. Security footage shows that she nearly succeeded. Green momentarily loosened her restraints before becoming suspicious of her intentions. Diamond's final act of resistance came when she managed to activate her studio equipment during a brief period when Green left to prepare food, creating a distortion noise that she hoped might alert neighbors. Perhaps most poignant were Diamond's final recorded words, spoken after Green revealed his intention to complete the purification. With remarkable clarity and courage, she told him, "You think you know me through my music, but you've never seen me at all. My art isn't me. It's what I make from who I am. And who I am is someone you could never touch, no matter what you do to my body." By Monday morning, Kesha Williams had sent 23 unanswered texts to Diamond's phone. The promised back to civilization message that should have arrived Sunday night never came. "Something's wrong," she told her boyfriend at 7 a.m. Diamond never goes this long without responding, especially after creative sessions. When calls to Diamond's management team revealed they hadn't heard from her either, Kesha's concern escalated to alarm. Diamond's label representatives suggested waiting until afternoon, attributing the silence to creative immersion or exhaustion. "She probably just crashed after finishing the tracks," her producer reasoned. But Kesha, who had cataloged every strange occurrence in Diamond's home over the past months, felt a sickening certainty that this silence was different. "I'm going over there," she texted the team at 11:32 a.m. "If I'm overreacting, you can all laugh at me later." The 40-minute drive to Diamond's secluded mansion felt interminable. Kesha later recalled noticing unusual tire tracks on the rarely used service road leading to the property, evidence that would later confirm Green's vehicle had been parked nearby. As she approached the main gate, everything appeared normal. Security systems active. No visible disturbances. Using her emergency access code, Kesha entered the property at 12:17 p.m., calling Diamond's name into the silent house. The faint smell of burning incense, something Diamond never used due to vocal concerns, was her first indication that someone else had been there. Following instinct rather than caution, Kesha moved through the main floor toward Diamond's studio. The door stood partially open, equipment still powered on but the room empty. A half-finished cup of tea on the console suggested Diamond had been working recently. It was the streak of red on the doorframe leading to the master suite that froze Kesha's blood, a smeared handprint at waist height, as if someone had steadied themselves while injured. What Kesha encountered in the bedroom would later require months of therapy to process. Diamond, bound to a chair, showed signs of days of systematic torture. Green, wearing his grotesque mask of lyrics, was engaged in what appeared to be a ritualistic arrangement of Diamond's jewelry and awards around her body. For 3 critical seconds, Kesha and Green locked eyes through the mask's openings, a moment of mutual recognition before chaos erupted. Green lunged toward Kesha with a knife, but his movement was hampered by the ritual arrangement at his feet. This crucial delay gave Kesha the seconds needed to grab the nearest weapon, a heavy crystal Grammy Award from Diamond's display shelf. With adrenaline-fueled strength, she struck Green in the shoulder and head, temporarily incapacitating him. As he fell, Kesha ran for the door, locking it behind her before fleeing to her car, where she called 911 at 12:29 p.m. The 8 minutes between Kesha's escape and the arrival of first responders proved fatally long. Audio from Green's recording devices captured his final deranged monologue. "They're coming to stop us, completing the purification. We must finish now." The 16 gunshots that followed, one for each track on Diamond's debut album, echoed through the property just as police vehicles approached the gate. By the time SWAT teams breached the bedroom door at 12:44 p.m., Green had fled through a bathroom window, leaving behind Diamond's body and the mask that had hidden his face during her final moments. Diamond's murder sent seismic waves through the entertainment industry. Within hours of the news breaking, social media platforms were flooded with tributes from fellow artists, many revealing their own security fears for the first time. "This could have been any of us," wrote Grammy-winning singer Layla Jones in a viral post that sparked industry-wide conversations about artist protection. Major labels announced immediate security protocol reviews, with Universal Music Group establishing the Diamond Johnson Safety Initiative, providing enhanced protection services and stalker awareness training for their artists. The Recording Academy held an emergency summit in May 2022, bringing together security experts, artists, and management teams to develop new industry standards for threat assessment and response. Media coverage quickly moved beyond the sensationalist aspects of the case to examine the systemic failures that had allowed Green's obsession to escalate unchecked. Rolling Stone's June cover story, "Dying to be Heard: How the Music Industry Fails to Protect Black Women," became a catalyst for public pressure on entertainment companies to acknowledge their duty of care to vulnerable artists. Diamond's death had exposed the dark underbelly of fame, the expectation of constant accessibility without adequate protection from those who might exploit that visibility. The search for Marcus Green became one of the largest manhunts in Georgia history. More than 200 law enforcement officers from local, state, and federal agencies combed the region, while digital forensics teams traced his online footprint and financial transactions. Highway checkpoints were established across 5 states after Green's abandoned vehicle was discovered at a bus station in Chattanooga, Tennessee. The breakthrough came when Green's sister in Phoenix recognized him from security footage and contacted authorities. After a tense 6-hour standoff at a motel in northern Arizona, Green was taken into custody on April 29th. In his possession were Diamond's pendant necklace, a journal containing plans for similar purifications of 3 other female artists, and a half-completed mask made from another musician's lyrics, evidence that Diamond would not have been his last victim. Diamond's murder highlighted the particular vulnerability faced by successful black women in the public eye. Cultural critics noted how black female artists are often expected to maintain greater accessibility to fans while receiving less institutional protection than their white counterparts. The same visibility that brings success becomes a liability, wrote cultural analyst Dr. Kimberly Washington in her analysis of the case. Statistics revealed a disturbing pattern. Stalking incidents against prominent black women were reported less frequently, but escalated to violence more often than similar cases involving white celebrities. Diamond's death exposed how success itself can become a risk factor when fame creates visibility without corresponding security infrastructure. Her story became a painful reminder that achievement can create vulnerability when systems designed to protect public figures fail to recognize the specific threats faced by black women navigating predominantly white industries. If this episode has affected you, please take a moment to like and share it. Not for our metrics, but because this information could save someone's life. Diamond's story reminds us that stalking behaviors often escalate when ignored, and that trusting your instincts about personal safety is never an overreaction. How are you protecting yourself and your loved ones from potential stalkers? Share your safety strategies in the comments below. Subscribe to our channel for more life-saving information from real cases like Diamond's. Remember, awareness is the first step toward prevention, and your vigilance today could prevent a tragedy tomorrow. No one should have to die before their warnings are taken seriously. Stalking behaviors follow recognizable patterns that security experts urge everyone to familiarize themselves with. Dr. Rachel Morgan, who specializes in threat assessment, identifies 5 warning signs that should never be ignored. Unexplained presence in your personal spaces, small objects being moved or rearranged, escalating attempts at contact after rejection, information about you they shouldn't reasonably have, and what she calls the gift of fear, that instinctive discomfort that something isn't right. Practical security measures begin with digital hygiene. Location tagging is essentially giving stalkers a roadmap, explains former FBI agent Marcus Tanner. He recommends regular password changes, 2-factor authentication on all accounts, and quarterly security audits of your social media presence. For physical safety, varying your routines is crucial. Changing regular routes, schedules, and habits makes it harder for someone to track your movements. Documentation becomes your strongest ally if concerns arise. Create a stalking log with dates, times, and detailed descriptions of concerning behaviors, advises victims advocate Sophia Chin. Even seemingly minor incidents can reveal patterns when documented. Most importantly, share these concerns with trusted allies who will take them seriously. Diamond's tragedy might have been prevented if her initial reports had received immediate, thorough investigation rather than dismissal. Remember, persistence in seeking help isn't paranoia. It could be the difference between safety and tragedy. In the 2 years since Diamond's murder, her legacy has transformed from tragedy to catalyst for change. The Diamond Johnson Foundation, established by her family in August 2022, has funded security assessments for over 300 emerging artists, with particular focus on women of color in the industry. Their Trust Your Instincts campaign has reached millions, normalizing conversations about stalking prevention and personal safety. Legislatively, Diamond's case inspired the Performer Protection Act, passed in California and New York, which requires entertainment companies to provide comprehensive security protocols and stalking awareness training for contracted artists. Major venues have implemented enhanced screening procedures, while record labels now routinely include security provisions in standard contracts. Concrete changes that acknowledge institutional responsibility for artist safety. Perhaps most powerfully, Diamond's unreleased music found its way to audiences through Final Diamond, an album completed by collaborators with her family's blessing. Released on what would have been her 30th birthday, the album features Watching Me, a haunting track Diamond had recorded weeks before her death that eerily predicted her fate. The song became an anthem for stalking awareness, with proceeds funding emergency relocation services for stalking victims. Diamond's mother, speaking at the Grammy Tribute in 2023, captured her daughter's enduring impact. Amara always wanted her music to save lives. Through her foundation and the changes her story has inspired, she's saving lives in ways she never could have imagined. My daughter's voice wasn't silenced. It's louder now than ever. In her song Unfinished, Diamond wrote, "They'll never know what I had left to say." The tragedy of her murder lies not just in the brutality of her final days, but in the silencing of a voice that had so much more to contribute to our cultural conversation. Her unrealized potential, the albums unmade, the performances ungiven, the young artists unmentored, represents an incalculable loss. As we conclude Diamond's story, remember that vigilance isn't paranoia, and concern isn't weakness. The most vulnerable among our public figures are often those whose success makes them appear invincible. In honoring Diamond's memory, let us commit to creating a world where no one's warnings go unheeded, where art can flourish without fear, and where visibility never comes at the cost of safety.